Hey guys, it's MJ. Welcome back to Pet Adventures again. I thought today that I would just start off on a little bit of the Crested Gecko Care. It's fairly easy, and I feel like this is a pet that everyone should get when they're starting to get pets and reptiles and things like that. And I also just got a brand new cage for my Crested Gecko right back here. So I thought, why not? I know a lot of you guys are beginners and you kind of want to know what's up with certain reptiles. And like I said, this is fairly easy, and not to mention also crested geckos are basically my #1 most favorite like lizard. So let's get started. First off is caging, and caging should be basically what I have back here. You can get something that's about this big, and this is me right next to it. Around that size or bigger would have to be definitely like this is the minimum. I am a bit ashamed and embarrassed to say I did have a cage that was a little bit smaller than that, and you should never do that, but at the time I guess we just had our reasons why we were doing that. But that's Waffle's cage. Waffle is my crested gecko. That's Waffle's cage, and like I said, this is the absolute minimum. I will put the dimensions of it right on the screen. But this is the absolute minimum for any crested gecko, baby, adult, whatever. Minimum or bigger. Hey Waffle! Oh, I can see you back there. You're so cute. Next would be the substrate, which is the stuff that's right at the bottom. I would use any kind of dirt substrate because these guys like a lot of humidity, and you really want to amp up the humidity a lot. I mist his tank about 3 times a day, so they definitely need a lot of humidity. They are from New Caledonia, and so there's a lot of humidity going on in there. So very tropical. So definitely want to get a dirt substrate that can have a lot of moisture in it. I just use the cocoa peat that comes in a block. It's like $8.99 or something at the store, and it lasts a really long time, so definitely get your hands on that. And I would probably change that out like once a month. I mean, they're not very dirty, so you wouldn't have to worry about it too much. And speaking of humidity, you're going to need some gauges in there too, a heat gauge and a humidity gauge, and you can also get a digital thermometer, which is what we have, to check the temperature as well. But as far as humidity, at least get a gauge there. You kind of want to know what's up, and excuse that, my cats are plate biting right now. And basically what I have in Waffle's cage is just a lot of plants. You can put live plants in there. I recommend getting things like a ficus tree. They're really hardy plants, and they're just house plants, so they're able to withstand a lot of different things. And you want to get like logs, and just like basically you want to have everything in there that you know your crested gecko could probably like climb on, and you know, things like that. And they do need to hide, so the more plants the better. You can put little logs in there, things like that. And you know, obviously I'm going to show you guys everything that's in my tank. I know that Waffle loves to get on his little man tree thing. It's just like a little tree with like a little face on it. It looks a little creepy, to be honest, but I know that he loves to get on that a lot, and he hides behind it and gets on top of the tree's like head. So sometimes, you know, your crested gecko will have a preference, so the more you have in there the better, and the more options he or she will have. Next is on to food. As you can see, I just keep his food right on top of his cage. They do need just some crested gecko diet. They can live solely on this. This is enough variety for them, because a lot of these, this is what I have, the Pangea one. You can get it online, and it comes in like a really big bag, and but it's really good. Mine has insects in it. It's the Pangea fruit mix complete with insects. But what this usually is, I mean, they'll tell you a lot of the ingredients. It says like dried banana, apricot, coconut, papaya. Like, it's basically a lot of fruits and then some insects, which is basically their diet. They will definitely need fruits and sometimes some insects in their diet. I You don't have to do this, but I recommend giving them as much variety as you can. As with any reptile, basically, if you can. Like, for instance, my crested geckos, my leopard geckos, sorry. My leopard geckos, I give them crickets, I give them rapashi, which is just a gel food, but it's just crickets in a gel food. And I give them worms, so you want to give them a nice variety, I would say. But if you wanted to, you could have your crested gecko just eat like 2 crickets a year. I know some people do that, so you can definitely do that too. But this is really, really good. You can just mix it with a little bit of water. I mix it all up in his little bowl. You mix just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And it says it even on here. The directions say mix 1 part powder and then 3 parts water. So obviously you want more water than powder in there. And a lot of people have their own preference of like the consistency that they want. All that matters is that your gecko can eat it in a in a watery to paste form. But if you are one of those people who kind of want a reptile that isn't going to be eating any live food, I know a lot of people, me particularly, I've never had a problem with any of that kind of thing, any of that stuff, but I know a lot of people have problems with feeding live food to their animals, and in that case, that's why a crested gecko is perfect for beginners. You don't have to feed them any live food. It is not absolutely mandatory or anything like that. Something I do actually do though is I feed my crested gecko every other day just because he seems to get fat really easy and I don't want him to get overweight. But I feed him every other day, and what I do is I make the mix at night before I go to sleep because that's when he's going to be up. Crested geckos are nocturnal, as are leopard geckos. So if you kind of want an animal that's going to be up at, around the daytime with you, probably not the best option. Although my crested gecko Waffle, he does actually come out a lot more since I got his new cage. He comes out a lot more and I see him a lot more. So most likely the better the cage, the more you may see him, because I know when he had his smaller cage, he was always hiding. After I give him his mix at night, in the morning when I wake up and I go to see him, I take it out immediately because you're not supposed to be leaving the crested gecko diet in there all the time. Like, it's just like overnight, and then when you wake up, take it out because it gets kind of bad really fast after it's been mixed. So that's something you want to watch out for. I wouldn't let your crested gecko eat it when it's been there like all day or something. Okay, so guys, I actually found out in the middle of editing the video that I forgot to mention something very important that is going to be in this video. Crested geckos don't need any special lighting or heating. Their temperatures at room temperature should be around 80. And so I just thought I would mention that. As long as it's around 80 or so, you don't need any special lighting or heating. And I'm sorry I forgot that. And you'll only need any kind of like heat lamp if it's really cold where you live. And also I told you guys about misting. You can actually keep the humidity. I'm so sorry, my cats are so hyper in the morning and at night, which are like the worst times for everybody, but yeah. Now, like I said before when I was misting, when I was telling you about misting, you can keep the humidity up really well if you get a humidifier. This actually does provide water for them on a 24-hour source. Some people don't want to do that for a little gecko, but if you think about it, it really helps because let's say you forget to give them water or forget to mist it or anything like that, you don't have to worry about it because your humidifier is always on, humidifying everything, and it gets on the plants and he'll lick it off the plants. Going to that statement as well, a lot of people like to tell you that any tropical lizard, they'll say that they're not on the ground a lot, and they like to be up in the trees. So what they'll do is they'll lick when you spray the tank. They'll lick it off the plants, which is true. They will lick their water off the plants, but that is not the only way they are going to get a water source. They are not stupid. A lot of people will tell you, oh no, a crested gecko doesn't need a bowl, or This is absolutely false. They'll tell you this with a lot of tropical lizards. What they really mean, I think, is technically crested geckos prefer, let's use the word prefer. They prefer to drink off of their plants and things in the enclosure after you mist it, but they are not going to only do that. If you have a water bowl in there, they're going to drink off of that because they know that that's their only water source at the moment. So please, please, please give them a water bowl, because let's say that you forget to mist for a day or two or a week, you never know. Maybe you're busy. If you don't have a water bowl in there, what's going to happen to your crested gecko? It's going to die. So just to be safe, please keep a water bowl in there. Now the same would not be said actually for chameleons though. Now usually when people get chameleons, not this chameleon care, but usually when people get chameleons, I would always tell them, don't bother getting a bowl. And it is true, they will not drink out of a bowl. That is why you have to have a humidifier for a chameleon. Many people don't know chameleons are actually very intermediate. They're definitely not beginners for beginners. A lot of beginners try to get them, but unless you have a lot of reptile experience, I wouldn't recommend getting them right away. But anyways, my point about everything is that their feet are made a certain way. It's like this basically, which is kind of cute. And what happens is they really aren't able to get on the ground very well because their feet are like that, so they stay up in their vines and their trees. So it's very hard for them to be able to drink out of a bowl of water. And I've actually seen a lot of chameleons die. That actually does happen. So if you ever get a chameleon, just saying, you should get a humidifier, because they need water off their plants. Now you guys are probably wondering, okay, well how do I give the water and the food to my crested gecko if it's not on the ground? Good point. I actually have something called a Reptiledge, and the Reptiledge is just a magnified 2-bowl little source that holds the food, you know, the Pangaea and the water, and it holds it to the side of the tank. That way when my Waffle decides to go eat or drink, it's still up, so he doesn't have to be on the ground. And by the way, my crested gecko does go on the ground, just not all the time. He prefers to be on the trees and stuff, but he will go to the ground. If you guys are wondering personally what I do with Waffle, I give him his mix basically all the time. I keep it right up here. I give him his mix on a every other day basis. And then from time to time I hand feed him crickets. He's had worms in the past, but I really don't do that too often just because I don't feel like it. But like I said, the more variety for any reptile, I think, the better. But that's just my opinion. And some of probably the last few things I would include in this care video would just be handling and taming. Waffle is actually quite skittish himself, so I'm kind of sort of in the process of taming a lot throughout his life. Someone had him way before I did, and I'm pretty sure that they didn't fool around with him too much because he's very, very skittish. But I'm still able to handle him and things like that, and sometimes I can calm him down. For taming and handling, it's all in the matter of just sticking your hand in the tank every single day. Stick your hand in the tank. You don't actually have to touch your crested gecko when you do this. You can fiddle around with his plants, you can mist it, you know, whatever. Just have your hands in the tank regularly so that he or she knows that that's not going to be anything to worry about. And also when it's time for feeding, what you can do is you can take the Pangaea mix and put it on the end of a chopstick and have your crested gecko lick it off sometimes. And it's the same goes with crickets. You can get your tongs and you can hand feed them the crickets. So that's my take on taming. Eventually, if you do enough of this, I know that Waffle has calmed down since I actually started hand feeding everything, and I also noticed that he calmed down just by a better cage. So give him a nice variety of food, of space, of anything you can do. I mean, this technically isn't the best cage, but this is the absolute minimum. Never get anything smaller than this for any crested gecko. So I hope you guys enjoyed this care video. Let me know down in the comments if you think I left out anything, or if you guys have any questions, anything like that. I think one other thing I forgot is like the lifespan. It's about 15 years. Same with any little gecko. But please leave a comment down below, like this video, subscribe. Also, you guys, I have a lot of social networks that I'm on. I'm basically on every social network you can think of. And I'm also going to start getting you guys to, well, not getting you guys, but I'm going to start putting donations on this channel, so you can always donate to me if you want, for me to create better content. I also have a Patreon. You can donate to me there too. So you can donate $1, $2, $10. I think my goal overall is going to be $100 a month, which isn't all that much. If there's enough of you guys, it really adds up. So go on over to my Patreon and donate if you can. If you do donate, basically it's all going to go to, well, it's all going to go to this channel in general, and also to my pets, which are a big part of my channel. So I'll see you guys next time, and have a great day, and bye!